Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes Paul. Speedball might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Good evening, Wolves fans. It's Little Dan here with the latest Wolves Fancast match review and match preview show. It's a bumper episode tonight. I've got with me two gorgeous men with me. I mean, I'll tell Tom every time he comes on, he's absolutely stunning. This lad is. I could eat him up. And Stu's just another level above. I mean, how are we doing, guys? Have you got that winning feeling like me?
I mean, it's like an episode of Man Oh Man, this is.
You've shown your age again. I don't even know what Man Oh Man is.
Oh, it was like what's that thing we played in McGuinness? It was similar to that, but with Tarrant. Look it up. It'll be on YouTube somewhere.
I just laughed out of politeness.
Yeah, but I didn't expect you to. I mean, you're obviously younger than me, but Dan should know what Man Oh Man is. I mean, come on.
No, Stu. This is probably one of your like sheltered upbringing TV shows that you just. Eating like pork pie sandwiches in Ashma for like tea or something. It's proper sheltered upbringing with just random TV shows. We were watching shows like Bullseye and stuff like that. You were watching Man Oh Man with a cigarette and a pint of bitter.
Man Oh Man was a British game show that aired on ITV from the 4th of May 1996 to the 7th of August 99. There you go. See,
we've got to get straight onto Wolves. We can't keep talking about Man Oh Man all night because it's just we've got 12, 14 live viewers at the moment. I don't want to ruin their evening by talking about Man Oh Man. Wolves made themselves through to the fourth round of the Carabao Cup last night with a 1-0 win over Leeds United. What was your sort of thoughts on the team lineup, Stu, when it came out at sort of 6:45?
A bit mixed, really, because it was stronger than I expected him to go. But at the same time, how terrible everyone else is, then you couldn't blame him for completely changing it altogether. So I think just the midfield being so inexperienced was a bit of a shock. But then you saw the Leeds lineup and you think, okay, we've still got to win this game. But as soon as that happened, I was quite excited for the game. You know, it's always good to see Sarkic, obviously, because we talked about him last season, how good he was for Birmingham. And obviously the enigma that is Connor Round and somehow coming in from the dark and playing well. But Joe Hodge he's like the reincarnation of Jack Price. And the more I serve him, the more he reminds me of him. And it's quite scary in a way. But yeah, I was kind of excited, which hasn't happened very many times this season, to be honest.
For those that were sort of unaware, the starting lineup last night was Mateo Sarkic in goal, a back four of Johnny Collins, Kilman and Aït-Nouri, a midfield three of Ruben Neves, Joe Hodge and Connor Ronan, with a front three of Adama Traore, Hwangi Chan and Gonçalo Guedes. What was your thoughts on that lineup, Tom? Obviously, Stu's mentioned Sarkic and obviously the youngsters, Hodge. Well, is Ronan, can we class Ronan as a youngster anymore? What was your thoughts on those three starting yesterday?
You know what? I think the biggest thing that I noted is when you're coming in, you don't play regularly, with how terrible and kind of inept we've been and on that kind of downward slump. It's almost like a time to shine, right? So when you're seeing players that are actually putting in a proper shift, they've got a point to prove, coming in and, you know, say making a difference, but something different to look at, right? When you see the same team, same lineup every single week, it's just nice sometimes to have that fresh players coming into the team with a point to prove. I thought Ronan did well. I'm not the biggest fan of Hwang, and those that know me all know that far too well. But again, he did, he looked better, but he set the standard quite low for me anyway. But I thought Sarkic in goal was, the standout, especially during that first 5-10 minute spell or whatever it was when he was like Spider-Man flying between the sticks. But yeah, it was positive to see some good energy levels, to be fair. But Leeds are a high pressing team. So it's good to kind of match them on that energy levels, I suppose.
Hayley Page in the comments section, as mentioned, Mateo Sarkic was amazing in goal last night. Gully in our sort of WhatsApp group before the game wouldn't say adamant, but he was overly confident that we were going to beat Leeds United pretty easily last night. But those first 10 minutes, Stu, Sarkic pretty much saved our bacon, didn't he?
I mean, the way that Sar's been playing this season, and again, I'm not coming on here to slander the man, but he's got a broken hand, shouldn't be playing, and it makes it even more ridiculous that Sarkic hasn't had a look in the Premier League when he can pull out performances like this. And like Tommy just said, you come in from the cold. I mean, we saw it so many times with John Ruddy being shit every cup game and throwing them in. And then he's coming and he's straight from the off. He's pulling out wonder saves. I mean, the double one where from the header and then to get back and punch it out, that was superb. I mean, I ain't seen anything like that for a long time. But to be so switched on and on his second appearance of the season, he was superb. And we could easily have been 2 down after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But would you put him in place instead of Sarr next game? As well as he played, would you pick him? Well, you wouldn't, would you?
Well, I'd rather play someone who's got both hands and he's fully fit than however good Jose Sarr is, and he was my player of the season last year. However good he is, I'd rather have someone who's fully fit playing, regardless of their talent level. Well, that's just me.
He was outstanding that sort of first 10 minutes, but as what's been seen recently, our defence weren't giving him much protection, were the Tom?
Say that again, sorry, mate.
The defence wasn't giving Sarkic much protection that opening 10 minutes, even though he was pulling out saves left, right, and centre.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely grew into the game. I mean, the first 10 minutes, I thought, God, here we go. It's going to be an absolute mullering. But again, I mean, I don't exactly probably this going to 4 at the back and the personnel that we've got. I'm still not convinced that playing 4 at the back with the personnel that we've got at the moment is the right time. Or if you do, the central midfielders have to sit really, really deep to give them some more protection. But I did think Collins, as we went into the game, started to perform a little bit better. But we were pulled from pillar to post yet again by arguably a second string relegation battle, albeit Premiership team, right? But yeah, it wasn't. We got the win in the end, but we rode our luck. Well, Sarkic, performed like a world in those first 10 minutes. So yeah.
Another sort of routine performance in the first half by Wolves. Stu kept the ball pretty well. Obviously, we've already mentioned how tidy Joe Hodge was. I compared him to Marie Kondo on Twitter for how tidy he is. He's just an unreal little footballer, isn't he? But as soon as we got into that sort of final third, it was lacking ideas or shooting recklessly from distance, wasn't it?
Yeah, he just went back to the same old normal again, didn't it? I think I'm just kind of settled into it now. I'm not getting mad about it anymore because there's no point. Because we know they're not good enough and we know they can't do it. And what was more disappointing was the performance that Guedes put in last week compared to last night. And it's like head and shoulders again. You think, well, how can you go from playing that well? I know he was moved to the left-hand side to accommodate Adama. Maybe that had something to do with it. But then Adama himself wasn't at the levels that he was before, like pre-Brentford game. And you think, well, when you've got future coaching staff in the stands watching you, and you know you've got a manager to impress, admittedly on video, then you think they'd be doing more. And yet again, they didn't. And I thought that out of the 3 of them, I thought Hwang was probably the best. And that's going to saying something. And he still didn't really do anything, but he held the ball up better than he has done, even though we know that that's not one of his strengths. And I thought when he actually did run with the ball, I thought he did okay. But again, it's just toothless over and over again. Nothing changes. And it wasn't a surprise, even against Leeds reserve teenagers, that we couldn't do anything.
Stu, could I just jump in? Do you agree with the keep playing the same system that we've done under Davis? Would you personally change it? Because obviously it's not working. The personnel isn't that strong. It was still going for that 3-pronged attack with 3 attackers who aren't performing week in, week out. Would you change it?
I would have had Guedes as a second striker like he played last season, and have it as like a 4-2. If you're having a 4-2-3-1, have him as the one, as almost like as a just off like a faux 10 second striker kind of role where he played well last season. I don't know the whole thing about playing Podence in the middle. It's never worked. It never will work because he's too small. Yesterday, you looked at him, and we'll come on to it later. The assist for the goal, using his brain and not being stupid. None of the others would do that. And like Gully said on Twitter, and you think, okay, well, if we have to play Podence there, then Guedes is in the middle. I think the problem is we've got no one up front other than Hwang. And if you play Hwang there, who are you going to play on the left? And then you're either playing Ait-Nouri there or you're playing Chem Campbell, who I know Dan's going to say he's not ready, which, looking at last night, he's not ready. So I think we kind of stung by the fact that we've got a squad that's completely unbalanced for any kind of real formation other than the one we've got, and we haven't got the players to even play that properly. So I think it's just getting Saturday out of the way and then praying that we actually spend money, or Raul comes back and he's not a chancer like he is at the minute. But in an ideal world, that's what I would go for. I would go for Nunes and. Saying that how good Bukayo Traore played last night, I would go for playing Nunes in his actual position with Neves or Bukayo Traore and have a front three behind a main striker, but we just haven't got the players, and I think this is the problem. And I think obviously Steve Davis is not, well, he's not even an EFL manager, is he? Let's be honest. So I think he's working with two arms tied behind his back, let alone anything else. But again, last night just showed how pitiful we are up front, even when we've got three international players there. It's just baffling.
I can't confirm whether it's an actual word in the English dictionary, but we've got unprolific wide men in abundance. I don't know any other way to explain them. They've all got a bit of acceleration, a little bit of pace. I can't really knock Hwang's effort, but put them in front of goal or trying to get them to create combinations to play one of them in on goal. I mean, it was clearly evident that Hwang and Guedes just did not want to try and combine between the two. There was a few efforts that Guedes had from distance, and you could see Hwang throwing his arms up in the air. Hwang lost the ball a couple of times. Guedes is throwing his arm up in the air. You mentioned Chem Campbell there a minute, Stu. Who else, sort of, apart from Nathan Fraser, can we even give a chance to in a different attacking ploy like Tom's tried to talk about a moment ago?
That's the problem, eh? I mean, I think we probably had more from Dexter Lembikisa in his little cameo at the end than Semedo and Johnny combined this season. And that's a position where 6 weeks ago we'd think, oh, we find it right back. But I think that does go back to the system, and like I spoke about last week, how the fullbacks are massively exposed in the way we were playing at the minute.
Yeah,
and the fact that you got two of them who are solid 7 out of 10 performances best, the vast majority of the time, who've turned into Sunday League nonsense over the space of a month. And you think, well, that's not a coincidence. That's just how they've been completely exposed. And it happened again in the first 15, 20 minutes yesterday. You know, why is no one picking up on this? And then it comes to something when a kid comes in, because he's got a bit of pace and can recover, to play well and master the system. And I don't know. The fact that we're at the dregs of the squad depth, and it's the kids who are performing because they haven't been tainted by the nonsense yet, and they're probably the best hope of getting out of this nonsense. And you could even say, well, okay, we'll play Podence on the left and play Dexter at right forward. Why not? Nothing worse could happen. Go full Darren Bailey on it. But it's just desperate at the minute, and it's got a wonder goal out of us going to penalties against Leeds under 21s.
It's because we've got wing backs, not full backs, and every team that plays us knows, so they can just expose them. So sometimes I feel a little bit sorry for them because they were bought for a completely different system. So now they're playing in a 4, and it's a completely different role, and they're just getting picked off week after week. And then you've got the 3 attackers who are just devoid of, I don't know, being too harsh, talent or confidence. It's just not a good combo, because that's just the main. We seem okay-ish in the centre of the pitch, But just down the flanks from defence to attack, it's just a horror show for me.
Yeah, and none of the wide forwards ever track back anyway. Ever.
Correct. So they're always exposed because we're playing narrow in the middle. So they're just always exposed for the overlap.
Yeah.
One of the younger players who's obviously been a massively appreciated by the Fancast in recent years was Ryan Aït-Nouri. What did you make to his performance last night, Tom? Overall, he was obviously always decent going forward. I think he was a bit suspect last night a couple of times defensively. But what was your thoughts overall?
I think you just summed it up, mate, and I think that's Ryan Aït-Nouri probably in a nutshell. I think he's obviously a talented lad. Again, still young, going forward. Occasionally, with his crossing and decision making, he takes an extra touch, and you think just get the ball into the box. But I think he will always be. Again, I'm going to sound like a stuck record and try to say something new, but he's a wing back. He'll be fine if you've got an extra defender to cover him. Or, you compensate by having a defensive midfielder that will constantly tuck in because he offers you enough going forward. But it's like for me, it's almost like an Alexander-Arnold with less talent, if you see what I'm trying to say, in terms of he'll expose that flank, push on, but teams will know that they can just pick us off down there. And of course, I know Liverpool are having a bit of a shocker season, but we're not anywhere near that class. So played decent, nice going forward, but again, defensively, he will be suspect, but not due to anything for him. It's just the position that he plays and getting the best out of him in his, in the formation.
Yeah. I really, really wanted this episode to be positive tonight, but hearing some of the...
Nearly, don't I?
No. Let me finish, Tom. This is going to be me coming out really negative now. We've talked about how we've got no full-backs, we've only got wing-backs. We've got two centre-backs who aren't two centre-backs in a two.
A goalie with one
We've
hand.
got sort of Ruben Neves' shooting last night was borderline atrocious. He was shooting wide from distance. The one free kick he had in the first half was pitiful. Didn't even test Robles. Conor Rowden's corners were mildly decent compared to some of the corners we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years under Moutinho. But let's just spend a couple of minutes on Joe Hodge. Just how good was Joe Hodge last night, Stu?
He was class. And we've seen kind of glimpses of it in his little appearances so far, and I couldn't, like I said earlier, I couldn't put my finger on who he reminded me of, and he reminds me of the Salopian Pirlo, and he's, other than the beard, if you put a beard on him, I mean we can do this later and superimpose it. He really is. He's playing like Jack Price used to, especially in League One. He looks about 26 years old in the way that he holds himself, the way that he moves about the pitch. I don't know why. Well, he's obviously not Man City level because that's a different stratosphere altogether. But for us to pick him up like this, I mean, fair play to Sellers and that part of his role that he's actually good at, for identifying these players and bringing them into the academy, because he's someone has he been here a year and a half, something like that? I know he had a bit of an injury as well, but to break through in the last few weeks, and you wouldn't be against him playing against Arsenal in a couple of days. I mean, he's probably did more yesterday. I mean, I know we've said about Nunes and how he's not played in his actual position. Again, that's not his fault. But Joe Hodge played in his position. He was probably man of the match for me yesterday.
It's not an outrageous statement for me. Joe Hodge being man of the match. What was your thoughts on Joe Hodge, Tom? For me, like I said earlier, he was so tidy. He was pretty much the main pivot of the midfield three. He allowed Neves to get further forward. I'm sure there was one opportunity where Neves was like near the penalty spot on one cross, and that just showed how Joe Hodge was pretty much dictating the tempo from a deeper position.
Yeah, impressed, refreshing to see someone young come in, a little bit different. Probably like Moutinho 10 years ago, maybe in his prime and dictating play and controlling the ball. No, probably getting a little bit overexcited there, but it's just not. And again, I think he takes the pressure off Neves to constantly be the only person, maybe with a little bit of class, that can dictate play and make things happen for us. or put that ball in. You know, as you say, if you've got someone, and good players as well know when they're playing against, you know, with someone that's of a certain standard, so it frees you up because you trust them, so you can give them the ball. You know they're not going to lose it under pressure. So instantly, that's why that central midfield is so pivotal. Those players that you think do very little, and the passes seem so simple, but that's why they're so important to teams, because everything, when all the attacking players will just move based on them, because you know they won't lose the ball. So then people can start making runs. But yeah, okay, been refreshing to see, and I think it's probably we've had very few positives as being a Wolves fan this season, maybe if any. So it's nice to see a goalkeeper pull off some Wardy saves, and it's nice to see a young lad who seems to take a lot of pride wearing the shirt and actually put in a good, you know, dictating performance in the centre of the park for sure.
We'll talk a little bit more in Arsenal further along the episode, but towards the end of the game last night, it did seem like it was petering out to a penalty shootout. You look towards the bench, and we had Jose Sarr, Boubacar Traoré, Daniel Pedence, Yerson Mosquera, Totti, João Moutinho, Hugo Bueno, Chem Campbell, and Dexter Lembikisa. It was Podence and Boubacar Traoré that won us the game tonight. It was a nice sort of bit of high pressure by Nathan Collins. He lost it and then managed to retrieve it, laid in Podence, who cut it back for Boubacar Traoré. I saw a lot of people question Joel Robles' footwork and positioning, but what was your thoughts on the goal, Stu? Because for me, I just felt Boubacar Traoré gave him the eyes and it was just a solid finish.
Yeah, and he was beaten for pace as well. I think the fact that he kind of flailed around, like you know them things that you get at sort of garages, them inflatable like men. He was like one of them. Yeah. I think that kind of adds to that theory that Robles was at fault, but you ain't stopping that. You got no chance. I mean, he's as clean as anything on the run with pace. He's just been beaten.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And it's. When was the last time I was going to say the last time we scored. I mean, scoring a goal at the South Bank end anyway is a minor miracle. But when was the last time we scored a goal like that for a cutback that's been blasted with power? It's been a long
Probably
time.
Jimenez on to West Ham.
Yeah.
Which feels a lifetime ago.
God, it's so sad. All those memories.
What was your thoughts on the goal, Tom? Nice work by Powders in the lead up.
Yeah, I thought it made cracking. I always think when the ball's coming across you from that side to actually get the control on it and the power, it's one of those that for me either goes into Rose Ed or seems to fly in the back of the net, and he hit it like an absolute beauty. And it's just a great goal. He went like an absolute rocket. And the control of the shot, it's a hard technique to do. So again, it was just nice to see in front of the South Bank a quality finish. 86 minute around there to win the game as well. So yeah, all good.
As I said, it did feel like it was petering out to a penalty shootout, but overall the game for me didn't really have a lot of structure. It did feel quite end to end at times. Obviously, Leeds had a good few chances out on the counter attack. We got into a few good areas, but sort of like I said, just classically petered out. But from how I felt at the time, they did feel a bit of limbs when that goal went in, Stu.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't celebrated that much anyway because of the when I lost my voice a few weeks ago ranting at Leicester. But I can control myself. I mean, considering there was no one around me anyway, because obviously there was a few empty seats yesterday. But yeah, it was a full on limbs moment, and like I said, we haven't had that many of that kind of goal for a long time, and the fact that you knew it couldn't be ruled out by VAR because it wasn't there, I think that could have added to it as well.
True.
But yeah, it was one of them moments as well, and I think the fact that how mental he went with the bench as well, and with Neves leading the charge in the massive jackets. I think it was like one of them unifying moments, and I don't know what it was because you're right, it was a bit of a scrappy nonsense game. It reminded me of it was a bit retro in a way, like the old Championship Tuesday night games where no one really wants to be there, but you kind of have to out of the fact that you've paid for your ticket anyway, and why not? And it's all a bit shit. Nothing happens. It's all scrappy. There's balls and going over the top, and there's chances being blasted wide. and then you get a moment of magic like that, and it all makes it worth it. And then you stay up until midnight watching highlights on ITV4, and you think, well, yeah, it's something really nice and pleasant about how bad it was. But it is, you are right, mate. It's full on limbs, and it's fully justified as well. I don't care if it's a Carling Cup, Carling Cup. I don't care if it's a Carabao Cup, and I don't care that it's against Leeds under 21 reserves. Couldn't give a fuck. The fact that they were singing Leeds are falling apart again, and the fact that their media manager was moaning about it on Twitter last night. I think you've been rattled in a Carabao Cup game by a strike like that. Fucking superb.
Frustratingly tonight, we are recording this before the fourth round of the Carabao Cup is being drawn. Wolves are number 15 in the draw. There's some big teams that actually went out as well last night. Obviously, Chelsea got beat by Man City. Liverpool only just struggled through against Derby. Man United, Aston Villa is being played, I believe, as we speak. There's some big teams still left in there. Obviously, Newcastle. But it's pretty much wide open. If we can get a nice, tidy draw in the fourth round, you're in the quarters from there. Who would you prefer to have, Tom, looking at that list there?
Well, what a question, because do I realistically think... You know what? Because they've got the new manager coming in, when the actual ties will be played, potentially there might be some optimism. I sound like right negative, right? But there might be some optimism on the horizon. So I would say let's just try to get some wins wherever we can. So let's just go for me, mate, let's just get through. So go as easy as possible. So what do you reckon, Lincoln City? Because look, I mean, but when we were in the, all those days of being in the first division and the championship, you'd want the glory, Manchester City and Liverpool. But I think let's just try and get some points at whatever we can in the Premiership and try and get some momentum in the Cup, and try and use that. It doesn't always work, but it's nice to give us a little bit of positivity. So the further we can, and you never know, if we can end up going to Wembley, I mean, that would just be superb again. So, mate, I'm going to pick Lincoln City if I could. But anyone I'd like, Charlton, Gillingham, Lincoln from that list, even MK Dons, that'd be good. When we filled out the away end, that was good memories as well. So, let's try and keep it as simple as possible for me.
There has been a lot of clamour on social media, Stu, for another 10k to MK. I'm not sure whether that's even feasible on a midweek Carabao Cup game, but who's your sort of preference out of that list there?
Well, as usual with cup ties, I look down the list at what places I've never been before. Lincoln is the only one of these that I've never been to before. So Lincoln away, for selfish reasons, to tick it off would be great. But obviously that never happens because I'm never that lucky.
Where is Lincoln?
It's by Grimsby way.
Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
Well, I might learn something new.
Strangely enough, Sarkic was born in Grimsby, because when I watched his interview, and I thought, well, his accent's pretty good considering he's from Serbia, and I thought, no, he was born in Grimsby. He's just through parents. But yeah, if it's not going to be Lincoln away, then anyone other than Man City, Newcastle, Man United, anyone else at home.
I'm not sure how you've avoided not saying Brighton there, Stu.
Yeah, but you don't know what they're going to be like, do you? Okay. Brighton's Brighton, and it's cup, so it's different rules. But as long as we avoid them, okay, and Brighton, get someone even like Southampton at home, Leicester at home. You kind of fancy that, wouldn't you? Even Burnley at home, Bournemouth at home. You'd fancy your chances against any of them. As long as it's not, Bournemouth away, Southampton away, Newcastle away on a Tuesday or Wednesday night over Christmas would be fucking awful. So hopefully it's not any of them. But yeah, I'm with Tom. Just for a run in this cup, especially, which we don't seem to do very often. But like you said, you win the next game, you're in the quarterfinals, and then you're one step away from a two-legged semi. So why not? Just go for it.
I'd prefer someone like Gillingham at home. We've got a good record against Gillingham. But I want to ask you both, I'm going to put you both on the spot here, and I'd like to know what the people who are joining us live think in the comment section. Wolves win the League Cup and get relegated. Would you take it?
Yep, 100%.
No.
Tom?
No way. Do you want to tell you why?
Yeah.
I've got a whole season of watching Championship. I know you say Championship, but Championship football compared to the Premiership and the players that we can see live and where we've come from seventh and pushing, having those fantasies of getting into the top six and getting into Europe and seeing the superstars down Wolverhampton to then have a full 12 months of watching Championship football going to these places where I don't know the players, I don't really know the teams. I'm not really that interested in them personally. No, mate. To win the Carabao Cup for a good 1 day out for 12 months, no way.
Tell me why you want that day of glory over accepting a relegation, Stu.
I just want to be happy for once. just to win something. Just once, it wouldn't matter. But I mean, I don't care who we play anyway. I mean, I wouldn't be going to Carabao Cup games on a November night, would I? If I was worried about the opposition. No, it don't bother me what league we're in, really. And I know I've said about being relegated would be a disgrace compared, like what Tommy just said, where we were even last year and the year before. But it's silverware, and we haven't got any silverware since 1980, before we were even born. So you got to think as well. I mean,
the Carabao Cup. I mean, I would still disagree for the FA Cup, but I'd still be a little bit more with you. But the Carabao Cup for relegation.
Yeah, but if you discount that, then we have to go back to 1960 till last time we've won anything.
Even if we've got to win the Carabao Cup, is it really? I mean, it's nice, but it's not. It's not the epitome of silverware. Like
you get Europa League though.
If you're one of the live viewers, drop a comment in the comment section. Would you take winning the League Cup for a relegation? Andrew Knight says no chance. We have to stay up in the Premier League. Andrew Knight, I'm going to come back to your other comment later on in the show if you stick with us. Obviously, this Saturday, Wolves are at home to Arsenal, 7:45 on Sky Sports main event. It's game week 16 of the Premier League. Man City start the weekend off at 12:30 at home to Brentford. 3 o'clock is Bournemouth versus Everton, Liverpool versus Southampton, Forest versus Crystal Palace, Tottenham versus Leeds, and West Ham versus Leicester. 5:30 Newcastle versus Chelsea. Out of those Saturday fixtures, where's your money on for a guaranteed win, Stu?
Oh, guaranteed win. Well, discounting Man City, obviously. I don't know, because even Southampton at Liverpool, where you'd normally think, oh, Southampton will get battered there. New manager bounce, will that count? I wouldn't put it beyond the realms of possibility for Leeds to beat Spurs,
No way.
There is a bit of rumblings of strife, isn't there, at Tottenham at the moment?
This is what I mean, and Leeds are so Leedsy at the minute, and Spurs are so Spursy that I wouldn't say it's nailed on by any stretch of the imagination, but looking at the rest of them, I don't see anything there that says, oh, that's like 5-1 on, other than obviously Man City. But there's just something about Spurs, like you said, at the minute, that I wouldn't be surprised if Leeds go there and do them.
Just like you said, Leeds, I've got it in them. Obviously, they won 2-1 away at Liverpool the other weekend. Nottingham Forest at home to Crystal Palace literally could go either way. I don't think there's any sort of bankers, is there really, apart from that Man City-Brentford game? But Brentford are an awkward team to play against at times. Obviously, they beat us 2-0 at home last season, which sort of came out of the blue at the time. Newcastle versus Chelsea. Tom, where's your money there on Saturday 5:30?
That's a good game. Again, with Chelsea, that'll be a really good game. Good instinct. I'd go. I think 2-0 Newcastle. If I'm honest, just with them, I'd go with the momentum and where Newcastle are at. You look at the players and the money that Chelsea have spent, and arguably where they're at. But, I mean, he started really well, didn't he, on his unbeaten run, and they've kind of petered off recently. And Chelsea, it depends if the players are on side. Is the kind of the gut instinct that you have with Chelsea as a football club, but I think going to Newcastle with the atmosphere that they create, with the momentum that they've got, with how well they're playing, and it pains me to say, but I'd put Newcastle down as favourites for that one.
Yeah. Oh, you can't argue with it, can you? Especially when something's happened. Something's happened at Chelsea already. They've already been booed off. Will he even last the season? And again, you wouldn't put it past them to get rid of him and bring someone else in, even though it's new ownership now. But again, credit where it's due. Eddie Howe's done an amazing job there, annoyingly so. But I just had a look at that. Leeds are 15-4 to beat Spurs. That's tempting. That's with Bet365. That's tempting me.
Won't happen.
What's the odds on Newcastle to beat Chelsea, Stu? Just curiously.
27-20, which I've never seen before in my life.
Yeah, they should just break down everything to something to 1. 3.75 to 1. Just everything needs to be to 1, just to stop being awkward. Obviously, Wolves, the 7:45 kickoff on Sky Sports. What's your sort of feelings going into that game, Tom? What sort of changes would you make on the back of the team that played last night?
Part of the bus. No, in all seriousness, you know what? That is such a good question. What changes would I make on the back of that? I think going with it depends. It depends how you look at the game, because we're playing those 3 attackers and it's not working. And honestly, if you play that, especially how Arsenal with their fullbacks get the overload with Zinchenko in the middle and create the extra man, they're going to have control of the midfield. They're better players, and they've got that system completely well drilled. So the middle of the pitch, Arsenal will control. And if we play with 3 attackers or 3 people that aren't tracking back, it could be an absolute horror show. So for me, I don't want to say 5 at the back, because I don't know what the 5 at the back arguably would be. But if you're going to go 4 at the back, personally, I would just play defensive. Try and make the gap between the defence and the midfield as narrow as possible. Try and get at least 3 narrow central midfielders. Almost give them the width and say, if you want to put a ball into the box, we've got 2 6'2"ers. We'll clear it, or hopefully clear it. And I think that's arguably going to be our best bet. If we try and play attacking football against Arsenal, try and control the midfield with the ball, they're going to pick us off, mate. 100%.
Do you agree with that, Stu? Obviously, we've been fawning over Joe Hodge for the last just over half an hour, coming up against Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka and Martin Odegaard. Would you risk Joe Hodge again?
I would. I'd go a 3-man midfield of Neves, Hodge, and Boubacar Traore.
Agreed.
What the fuck? No, Matthias Nunes is not. He's injured still, and even if he's not injured, he's coming back from injury. Why would you risk him for one game where you're probably going to lose anyway? Martinez has been nowhere near his best at all, even though he's been better. He's been better off the bench, weirdly enough, which is what he should have been last year anyway. So why not? I mean, the kid played well yesterday. If you play well, keep your shirt. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. Same, and I'll say exactly the same thing. I'll put Dexter in at right back as well. Fuck it, why not? We've got a bit of pace. We've got the problem solved there of the overload, because we can't defend properly anymore. Why not? If you got them 3 in midfield as some kind of barrier, you got pace at full-backs. Then you got the eternal problem up front, but it doesn't really matter because we're not going to get much of the ball up there anyway. So, I mean, I'd even say, again, keep players in form. I mean, that assist from Prudence playing on the right hand side. So play Prudence, Wang, and then I don't know. That's the problem. Who do you put on the left? Maybe play Ait Nouri on the left. Then you got cover for Bueno. Maybe. I mean, there's no one who can come in here and say that that's a bad idea.
We've got to match them for energy. You know, the way that Arsenal press with their front 3 with Jesus. I know he hasn't scored in about 9 games or something like that.
Yeah, we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Odegaard as well. And the way they press, we're not going to be comfortable on the ball, and they're going to be coming at us hammer and tongue. They've got Partey who just mops everything up. Xhaka box to box now. So it's got the hallmarks of an absolute mulligan. Even though my best friend's diehard Arsenal, and he's coming undercover in the Billy White stand with me, so that'll be fun for me to be sitting next to him. But I think, going back to what Stu says, young players, high energy, try to keep the lines as narrow as possible, pack out the central midfield, and try and get we've got to get people tracking back, because when they overload in the middle and spray it out, spray it out to their front three, we're going to be in deep doo doo.
You mentioned Dexter Lambakisa a few minutes ago, Stu. Obviously, Johnny looked like he pulled up again towards the end of the match last night. Nelson Semedo was suspended after his red card against Brian. So it's not really outrageous for him to start on Saturday night. Hopefully, if he does, he puts in another solid performance, because he was more than impressive during his little cameo last night.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's... Considering the vitriol against Semedo last week, I don't think there's any point bringing him back at the minute. So I think it was only a 1-game ban anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But why would you, when you need everyone on side, and you saw the reaction of everyone when one of his the first touch was beating someone and knocking it down the line. And you think, well, where's that been? Where's that been from our fullbacks all season on the right hand side? So it's Steve Davis' last game. Is he going to get a chance on the Lopetegui? Probably not. So why the fuck not just give him a go? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But at least you've tried something different, and we might do something. But doing the same thing over and over again, like the definition of madness stuff, why? Why not?
You did mention, obviously, it being Steve Davis' last game on Saturday. A few members of Julian Lopetegui's backroom staff were at Molineux last night for the 1-0 win. I expect Lopetegui to be in attendance on Saturday. Apparently, he's due to arrive in the country tomorrow. So, like you just said, we need to have Molineux rocking for Steve Davis and to show Lopetegui what we're all about. Just to sort of end the show, there was a few World Cup squads that got announced today for Portugal. Jose Sá, Ruben Neves and Mateus Nunes were called up for their nation today. Matinho missing out, Semedo missing out, Daniel Podence missing out. Gonçalo Guedes will be pretty good not to make that squad, but you look at their 6 forwards in that list there: Andre Silva, Cristiano Ronaldo, Gonçalo Ramos, João Felix, Rafael Leao and Ricardo Horta. He was lucky to even be mentioned in that squad, wasn't he, Stu?
I mean, you look at, other than Ronaldo, obviously Ronaldo's not going to be dropped, is he? But you look at that, and again, Matinho, Semedo, Podence and Guedes have been fucking shit. So they don't deserve to be called up for the World Cup squad, do they? It's simple logic that you put players in on form. And I know when he came out and said that obviously players who've been with him a long time, it's a shame, but you don't accommodate players who are not fit or haven't been playing football. And if they've been playing football and they're out of form, they don't go. I know we're going to come on to the England squad in a minute, and that's the complete opposite going on there. But it makes common sense for the players who've not been included to not be included.
You'll be supporting Portugal, Tom, when our players are playing in the World Cup?
Well, I would, but I didn't get my missus got them in the sweepstakes, so it's bittersweet for me. So I can't support them too much because I don't want it to take the pot. But yeah, I mean, you look, it's not, as a Wolves fan, when you look back over the years, the Division 1, the Championship football. Look, we've got players at a World Cup, so that's nice to see. To actually be able to tune in and actually see them. Will they start? I don't know. But yeah, if we get to see a glimpse of them, mate, we're gonna support them, and lo and behold, they'll probably pull off. Nunes will probably pull off some worldy performances because they'll probably be playing in the right position.
Mildly pleasing that Lopetegui's still got quite a big squad to work with, Stu, while the World Cups are occurring.
Yeah, and I think that's like Judah said this earlier on today, that it's a god. This World Cup's a godsend for us, because it is effectively just like any normal pre-season where you've got the players who got to the latter stages of a Euros or a World Cup and never there anyway, are they? They always come later on. So he's got the vast majority of the squad to sort out and to drill his ideas into, and then the ones who come back are obviously intelligent enough to kind of adapt anyway. So is it a blessing in disguise? Probably. But it's one of the things. I'm just glad it's done now, and that we got something to look forward to at last. But them 3-4 not being included is a massive bonus for us, really, as well.
Let's see, there's only sort of Hwangu. Who else is going to the World Cup? Looking at that England squad on the right there on the screen, obviously for the audio listeners, 3 England goalkeepers: Jordan Pickford, Nick Pope, Aaron Ramsdale. Defenders: John Stones, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Eric Dyer, Connor Cody, Ben White, Luke Shaw, Kyle Walker, Harry Maguire, and Kieran Trippier. Gareth Southgate has numerous times said that he would pick players based on form. So talk me through Harry Maguire's inclusion, Tom.
What a leading question. I do think he picked well. I saw the squad come out, and I do think he picks on form, but I think there's some exceptions to that particular rule, with whether it's behind the scenes or the leadership qualities that they show. Because Harry Maguire is, and arguably you could say he's Connor Cody at the standard that's needed to actually make an impact at that World Cup. But they must do stuff, or the leadership, or the fact that they've been there and done it. But for me, it could almost take a lamb to slaughter. If you start having Maguire and he makes a mistake at an England World Cup, that could be career done and dusted, and and never come back from. But arguably, it'll be interesting. What I'm quite keen to see is, does he play the same team like the women did at the Euros? Do they play the same team from the get-go? That's the 11. We're going to keep the continuity, build up those relationships through hopefully the easier group. Then to get to the knockout stages. So I'd be really, really, really excited to see actually what is the starting 11. Because again, Ben White at Arsenal has had a really, really good season. But then John Stones doesn't play that regularly. So arguably, you're looking at the centre half. I'm thinking, well, who is in good form? Kyle Walker's been injured. Harry Maguire is Harry Maguire. Connor Cody isn't at that particular level. So you look at it, you think Eric Dyer maybe's been okay. Ben White's probably the best one out of the lot that's in form. So who does he actually start? And is Harry Maguire more of a backup and more off the pitch? Arguably, that's the only reasoning I can think of for him being included based on form.
I think one of your close associates, Majestic T, has been sending a lot of messages in your direction tonight. Based on that logic, Tom, why was Tammy Abraham not chosen? Southgate says it was because his recent form fell off.
Well, if I look at the forwards, thank you for the question, Majestic T. But if I looked at the forwards that are there, I would take Callum Wilson. I think what he's, I know he's got he's a little bit injury prone, but there's enough backup there. So for me, you go between Tammy Abraham and Rashford. But I think Rashford arguably gives you a little bit more on the left. So he can play central and he can play on the left. So my logic would be Tammy Abraham would be more of a central fixed striker, where we've got Harry Kane who's going to play there, but Rashford could play through the middle and on the left would be my reasoning. And I would still go for Rashford over Abraham personally.
Callum Wilson got the nod, Stu, over Tammy Abraham and Ivan Toney. Do you think Southgate got that right?
Yeah. Well, again, as long as he stays fit, he's got it right. Because if you go there and he's knackered within 2 days, then it's a massive gamble that's failed straight off. But again, Harry Kane's going to play every minute of every game, ain't he? So there's no... You're looking effectively... I mean, the fact that Raheem Sterling is in this squad is an absolute farce. There's no... His form is... He's talking about form dropping off for Abraham. The fact that Fikayo Tomori's not even in the squad... Yeah, he won Serie A last year, and he had one bad game at Chelsea at the Bridge a few weeks ago, and that means he can't be in the England squad. It's fucking stupid, and everything that Southgate said, he's contradicted himself by his favourites.
Who would you drop out then for Tomori's show? Who would you drop out of that defensive? Would you not take Maguire?
No, I wouldn't have him anywhere near the squad at all. He's been shit for 3 years. Other than for half of the Euros for England, I don't understand. I mean, you could even argue that Tarkowski should be in there above Maguire. The fact that him and Cody have had that partnership all season long, it's just baffling beyond belief. And he's just fell into the trap of every other England manager, and he's done exactly what he said he wouldn't do. And this is probably going to be his last one. I mean, you'd think so, because we ain't winning nothing with that defensive wise, that is shocking. You put that graphic up again, Dan. That defensive lineup is awful, and you look at
Yeah, that is.
yeah. Um,
Maguire wouldn't get into that team.
no, he wouldn't. And you look at it. I mean, form wise, Trippier should be playing right back. There shouldn't be any doubt about that.
Yeah.
Even though Ben White's played well at right back for Arsenal, and you are like what you said earlier. Time you look at it, the back four, it should really be on form. Trippier, Ben White, probably Eric Dyer, even though he dropped a ball last week. And then you're looking at left back, and who plays there, and it's probably Luke Shaw. And I know he's in and out of form for England and not great for United either. But you are scraping the barrel there, and there's no real need to do it. And the fact that Calvin Phillips has managed to wheedle his way in after playing, less than half hour of football all season long. Conor Gallagher's been pretty shit for Chelsea. Yeah, he's playing for Chelsea, so he gets in. It's just bollocks, mate.
You think Calvin Phillips made it, though, because he's conscious of how bad the defence is? So he'll do the Rice, if he can, do the Rice-Phillips combo, really two deep midfielders.
Yeah, I know why he's done it, but it's what we said about Sarr and Sarkic earlier. You don't play unfit players because they're never if they're unfit, they're not going to be the players that you think they are. It just doesn't make any sense. We've gone over this so many times. The whole touching the Sun newspaper. Let's heal David Beckham and Rooney, and we've done it for the best part of 20 years of taking unfit, broken players, and they're always shit because they're not fit. It doesn't make any sense.
How has the Premier League got the bundles of money that it has, and we're having to rely on a Premier League defensive midfielder who's got one Premier League minute of appearance this season?
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. Calvin Phillips has one more Premier League minute appearance than all of us three this season. 1 minute. It's how have we got to this point? How have we not got any other defensive midfielders coming through the ranks? Who plays that sort of role for the under-21s in England?
Well, that's the problem. You're asking the question when you can't even think off the top of your head who it would be. I mean, you think, well, would you rather have a fit Jordan Henderson playing there, or would you have a broken Calvin Phillips?
Do you think, though, with Calvin Phillips, I'm just playing devil's advocate, I'm not trying to argue the tots of everything, but the group stage is what you look at them, Iran, Wales, USA, we should control in those games. We should be on top. Can't he, with the slight break that he's got, he must have spoke to Pep about where he's at in his recovery. Can't he get at least 20, 25 minutes work with the players? And if he gets some minutes with that, then he might be able to come the knockout stages, have enough fitness to go in to perform.
Well, in theory, but we've done this before. We did this with Rooney a few years ago, and he just doesn't work because they've had he might be physically fit, but he's not going to have no match sharpness whatsoever.
I'm going to try and call the episode to a halt in a few moments, but I'm just going to ask you both. The World Cup kicks off in a couple of weeks. Where's your money on to win the tournament, Tom? And can I have my England top back when you're done with it?
Always buy a size too small, mate. It's a secret.
Not when you're on a belly like this,
I'm going to go. I'm going to lock in. Oh, I don't know. I always think defences do win World Cups, but I got a feeling this year Argentina will win it. I'm going to go Argentina.
God forbid. God forbid. So now Gully's in the comment section, so I'm going to say God forbid. Stu, where's your money on to win who to win the World Cup?
Staying on the same continent, but I'm going with Brazil. I think they're just overloaded with quality everywhere, and defense may be the weaker part of that, but still, you look at it and they've still got two of the best goalkeepers in the world, and one of them's going to be on the bench, and that's gonna.
Who would you start? Who were you starting, Stu, for Brazil in goal? Who'd you go for? Or Dan, who are you going for?
I would. I think Alisson.
I'd go with Edison personally.
I'd go Edison. Yeah.
There's barely anything between them, is there?
I mean, it pains me to say anything nice about Liverpool at all, obviously. But I think shot stopping wise, Alisson is probably just a bit smidgen better.
Maybe.
Edison's better with his feet, obviously. So again, it depends which way they go. But
Andrew Knight in the comment section. Are you guys actually excited for the World Cup? I can't get up for it for myself. Obviously, Tom's come dressed ready for the World Cup tonight. But where's your excitement level out of one on a 1 to 10 scale, Tom, for the World Cup?
You know what? I always think this is exactly how my brain goes. I'm not that bothered. I'm not that bothered. I tell you what, as soon as that first whistle and the first pint of lager goes in for England, I'm gonna be on it. So I'm not that excited right now, and it's not like I'm counting down the days. But I think, like anything, I said the exact same thing for the Euros. I wasn't that bothered, and then as we watched the games and we got further and further, my excitement increased and increased. So I'm going to say not that bothered, but once we're playing, once I see the opposition fans and the diving and all the dramatics that come with it, that's going to wind me up. So I'll be hammering now as soon as it kicks off. So I'm going to go with, at the moment, a 6.5, but come kick off, 10 out of 10.
I was going to call Stu a football punt with an N, but you're not allowed to call that people at the moment. So what's your excitement levels, Stu, for the World Cup 1 out of 10?
Yeah, I think every time you call me that anymore, I'm going to have to report you to the police because I can't handle it anymore. I think, look, see, I've got my little pin badge from True Paid. I'm ready. I can't fucking wait now, man. Yeah, human rights abuses, yeah, it's terrible, bad. Obviously, thousands of people died.
Whatever.
But I don't know. What can I do about it? I don't care. How is it me watching the World Cup going to make any difference whatsoever? All the money's been paid for anyway. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. Fine. Don't preach at me for watching the World Cup because I want to watch as many games as I possibly can. I did think a couple of weeks ago this might be the first one since '98 where I don't watch every single one because of a few awkward times. But I'm going to give it a damn good try. And there's a nice little section there. Then they're going to come down and put the wall chart up. We've got the flags ready. But obviously, there's a problem there of the Christmas decorations interfering with the plans. But I've got an idea about how to get around that. But yeah, the way it's built up, and then the squad's coming out today. Obviously, England will probably get knocked out at the England will probably get knocked out of the quarterfinals, as is our way traditionally. And Brazil are going to win it, but I think it's going to be great. I mean, obviously the stadiums are going to be empty. The place it's a stupid place to have it. We all know that anyway. But the football, the players that are not injured and the ones that are actually there and playing, they're actually in their prime rather than knackered at the end of the season for a change. I think from an actual football point of view on the pitch, I think it's got potential to be the best quality World Cup we've ever seen.
How hot is it going to be out there? Is it going to be like drinks break and obviously affecting the play heat? Is it?
I think it's a bit 30, 32. So it's no
hotter than the devil's arsehole.
Yeah, but you have got air conditioning in the stadium still. They were still built with air conditioning in the stadiums, regardless of when they moved it to Christmas. So I don't think it's going to be as much of a problem. Like it was in Brazil, like a decade ago. So I know it was there winter and whatever, but what they were saying today, like between 30 and 35, we've had hotter World Cups than that. With drinks breaks and air conditioning. It's not going to be the worst thing in the world, I think.
Come on, England. Bring home a trophy. Wolves will take home the Carabao Cup and get relegated for Stu. And then England will get past the quarterfinals. They'll be happy, man.
I'll take it. Neil Lewis in the comments section saying, hi, guys. Portugal are going to win the World Cup. And as far as I know, Neil Lewis has got his head properly screwed on. Gully can think otherwise in the comments section. Everyone, thanks for joining us tonight on the Wolves Fancast match preview review show. We'll be back hopefully on Sunday with hopefully a podcast celebrating a big win over the dirty Arsenal. Keep the faith, Tom. Lopetegui is on his way after the World Cup. Saturday, 7:45, Arsenal at home. Thanks for joining us, everyone. As always, it's Wolves Fancast at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This episode was brought to you by 90min.com and Pixel Yeti Media. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend. We'll see you Sunday.